Sponsored by Ipana Toothpaste. From the makers of Bristol Myers.
We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, start trying to regulate thoughts, start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Greetings to everybody who's been watching my videos on Rumble and also on YouTube as well as Vimeo. A couple of months back, I did a video about NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. This was first released back in the 1990s, and I called it the living box that came to life. And essentially it's still alive because so many people are fanatically crazy about the system. I've done some photo shots of the manuals that came with the system, and I thought this time I would do some narration about some of the photographs and pictures that I'll try and show to you in the video today. First and most important is that the Nintendo system, as I've heard, had the most stable CPU ever built up until the time when computers started to become available to the general public. I think that's why people are fanatical about the system, because it held up under pretty much any kind of rigorous use. As far as you messed it up or damaged it, most times it could still function even if you had done something to it. Now, from my experience, as I used the system over the years, I started having problems where it wouldn't read the cartridge even if you put it in there. So you had to start pushing it in and out slightly and then getting it just enough in there, and you push down and it would read it sometimes. Other times the manual might say take an eraser from a pencil and kind of rub the inside of the cartridge contacts so that then it would make a better contact with the inside of your Nintendo system. And sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't work. So that's one problem they had with the system, because it wouldn't always make direct contact with the cartridge, so it would fail and you would never be able to get it to run at all. But on average, the Nintendo system was reliable. 99% of the time you could play it. One thing I found over the years was that the zapper itself, which was your gun, it began to lose alignment or calibration with the system. So you'd be pointing it at the TV set, which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to point it towards the console, but also towards your TV, and the alignment was supposed to show the computer where you were zapping. Well, it stopped doing that. And even if you aimed it right at it, I mean, you could be practically point blank on their TV screen and it still wouldn't zap. Like Duck Hunt. I used to play that all the time because it was so fun hitting the ducks. And over the period of time, it started just failing. It wouldn't read anymore wherever you pointed the zapper. Now you're going to say, well, that probably means your zapper was malfunctioning. You needed a new one. Well, that isn't true. I think the calibration of the system over the years has stopped reading precisely where you were aiming the zapper, and it didn't work anymore. That's probably most cases with everybody who bought the Nintendo system. The one thing I found recently, I had to move. I have my original Nintendo magazine, and it has all those cheats from the original Super Mario Brothers. They gave people a lot of giveaways of how to go to other worlds without having to play each of the worlds themselves. In other words, you didn't have to win to get to each level. You could skip over certain things because they had secret passages you could go through, and then you could go straight to another world without having to play the entire set. And the magazine was really helpful in that regard. And then when I was moving, I thought, oh man, I probably threw it away, because at that point I thought there's no reason to keep this, you know, but I still have it. So I am just really happy that at least certain things about Nintendo's early system, I can still play some of the games, even though the zapper part of it, I probably can say I'll never be able to play Duck Hunt again because it just doesn't read. I've been going back and finding more cartridges, and I did find the actual box for the Three Stooges. And it's odd, you know, when you show these pictures, YouTube itself goes ballistic. Like, you can't show that photograph, you can't show that picture. It says, oh, that's copyright, you can't show that. And it's so lame, you know, it's a lame scenario. They've got to find a reason to complain about something you're doing. So I figure, well, if they got to use somebody as a scapegoat to cause them as much hassle and harassment as possible, then it's just not worth being on a socialist platform like them. There's several other platforms where you can share videos with people and you don't have to worry about them retaliating. And I'm going to mention Rob Johnson on YouTube because this guy is a deliberate sympathizer for YouTube. He is probably paid by YouTube to target certain people who YouTube doesn't like them, or he's paid to harass them to get rid of them. And he did that to me just before I lost my other channel. You know, it's like they were just turning you in all the time to YouTube. Oh, he's saying this, or he's doing this, or he's posting stuff. And it's like, how lame can you be that that's the only excuse you have to do this to other people, to target them because you don't like them or whatever reason. And I'm sure he's still out there singling out other YouTubers, other videographers who use the service because all they want is just to silence everybody who stands up against communism in this country. He's a sympathizer for socialism. And there's several other people just like that. But, you know, this kind of stuff, it doesn't unite the United States as people. But that's what y'all don't want anyhow. You want to destroy the unity of the United States. You want to keep us divided as a country. And so that's why when people try to share their opinions and express their feelings, especially on YouTube, being a socialist communist organization, they target certain people who do tell the truth, who do single out things that are happening and try to bring it to the public's attention, and they silence you. And as I've said that hundreds of times in my videos, that's suppression. Flat out, that's suppression. That's oppression. These are the specific key target words that relates to socialism. It relates to totalitarianism, and you know, it's here, folks. And it's like before, people just were indifferent to it. Some people are waking up, but most people still are just like, who cares, you know? Those are the people who Rob Johnson loves, because these are the people who probably help him and YouTube to single out people who are trying to say things that are proving to the American public that our country isn't free anymore, that we don't have freedom, we don't have rights. And they're paid to silence people who try to say those things, who try to bring them up. But to get back to NES, because that is the purpose of this video, I'm going to just show you guys some other things that, you know, maybe you never had a chance to play the game system, but I'm just awe-inspired. So many kids out there who apparently they don't have anything else to do but sit there and look for things on the internet. They'll pay you $100 for a lousy box from an NES system, you know. They'll pay who knows how much just to have maybe a game box, you know, for like Friday the 13th or for Jaws, you know, or something, because it's in pristine condition. They'll say, look, it's from an NES system, and they'll pay ridiculous amounts of money for these things. I'd say, get a job. That's what I would tell any of them. Because the socialists, of course, are telling these kids, you don't need to work. Stay home. Don't work. Give you a heads up, Barack Obama said that for 10 years. He told all the blacks, if you get me reelected or get me elected as president of this country, I'll pay you to stay at home. And that's what they did for 8 years. They didn't work. They stayed at home. They got a paycheck from the government because they helped get Barack Obama in there. I was talking to a friend of mine at church tonight, and he only confirmed what I've been saying for the past 5 years. Who's in charge really of the United States, if it even exists? Barack Obama. He is using Joe Biden as his puppet. And I'm like, I've been saying that for years, you know, ever since Biden became the lame duck president, you know, ever since what they did in 2020. You know, all of it has direct ties to the socialists, the communists in this country. And who finances them? George Soros. Who else finances them? The Bilderberg Group. There are Federal Reserve banks all over the entire world, and they're all they're all confederated into this new world order that's already been established. And see, that's what they won't tell you on the news media. The news media is totally blank. They're silent about the subject because they don't want people to know these things. And you know, all you got to do is look at what happened from 2016 on. How they lied every single day that Trump had collusion with the Russians. He had this, he had that. That's all they keep talking about. Why do we even listen to them when we know they were lying for 4 straight years? And they're still lying to this day. What is coronavirus? COVID is a biological warfare. Used to be in school, you learned about 3 various kinds of possible attack on the United States: nuclear, biological, and conventional. These are wars and tactics that are used by the communists, by the socialists. And that's why you had all these test drills like duck and cover. You know, I read under every table. You know, people were aware of the fact that the socialists and communists wanted nothing more than to destroy the United States because it used to be a free country. Well, now it's happening in plain sight. We had a biological event, a biological warfare event took place, and the United States government suppressed that it even happened. They said, oh no, it was just some pure accident. And everybody knows where it started from, and the social platforms, they still suppress it and tell people you can't talk about that. So, but with the Nintendo system though, getting back to that, I'm sorry I keep jumping back and forth, but really if you don't hear these things, you're never going to hear them because the government's never going to let you hear it through any other social platform or anything else. Excuse me. So what we have to do as a country is say, either try to get a grasp of what they have been doing to our children for the past 30 years through critical race theory, or say it's too late, they've been brainwashed, we can't change what's already happened. And just remember, those same kids that were growing up in the 90s and their parents didn't give a flip, didn't give a rat's ass about nothing those kids learned or didn't learn, they're now adults and they're actually having children themselves, and these children are just as well being brainwashed as they themselves were as children growing up. They're still being brainwashed by a system that is suppressing free thought, free speech. That's what critical race theory teaches children. You're nothing. There's only certain groups who are entitled to anything, and the rest of society is entitled to nothing. And that's why socialism says that's the end of private property, private ownership. It all belongs to the state. Barack Obama told Joe the plumber that. Did anybody listen after Barack Obama got elected? He kept telling Joe the plumber was asking, you mean all the money I've spent and saved all my life, you're going to just wipe it out and just take it and give it to whoever you want? And Barack Obama told him to his face, that is exactly what I'm saying. And he's been doing that ever since. So, you know, Nintendo's a great system, it's fun, it's great to talk about, but nobody gives a flip about doing what's really right, and that's for the good of the United States, for what's good for the United States people, and for our way of life, our infrastructure. Everything is now geared at just destroying it, tearing it down. That's why you have Mexicans who come across the border at will, and the Border Patrol can't do anything to stop them. And Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama was telling them, come here, come here. We need your names on our voting systems so that we can justify and legitimize what happened, what will happen in the future. Because we know the public isn't going to do anything else except to say, if we can't vote and we can't speak our minds and we cannot have a voice, then we won't participate in it. I hope a lot of people will not participate. Because if you do, all you're doing is playing the puppet on a string. You're being performed like a marionette. You're doing what they tell you to do, and you got no voice, you have nothing. They're just using you for their ends and their means. And that's what it's about, folks. Idiocy. Stupidity. That's what America has become. Stupid. Idiot. Moron. And there's no other way to say that. Because you talk to people and they say, well, what can we do? What can we do? They've suppressed people's rights to protest. They've suppressed people's rights to vote. In other words, everything we had as Americans that protects us as Americans, they've annihilated it. They've eradicated it all for the whole system. There's nothing left of it. There is nothing that can protect us, nothing that represents us. Even though we are paying taxes, guess what? They don't care. They don't care, except the fact the IRS will come after you like a pit bull if you try and say, well, I'm not participating, so therefore I'm not going to pay taxes anymore. Oh man, you can't do that. They'll come after you, man, just like they did Edward Snowden. Remember Edward Snowden? He told the American people exactly what the government's doing, monitoring us, outthinking us, all the rest of it. The poor guy had to flee to Russia because he knew if they caught him, he wouldn't be around very much longer. And he knew that if he ever had to be extradited back to the United States, wherever he fled to, he said, I'd never get a fair trial. Because that's what the government, what the FBI, the CIA did. They targeted him like he had just assassinated somebody. And that's why they went after him at bay. I mean, it was just constant, over and over. It's just like what they did to Trump, attacking him. That's why President Trump called it a witch hunt, because it's still a witch hunt. It's all about, they don't like you, they target you, they single you out, they go after you, they destroy your credibility, they destroy you as a human being, they destroy everything about you as an individual. And that's what they've done for the past, 6 years to Trump, ever since he first became president. Targeted him, hated him, attacked him viciously. Didn't stop, hasn't stopped to this day, it's still going on. So if you think, oh, well, no, that's not what's happening, that's whatever, it's like, man, you know, I'm so sick of hearing people say, oh, you're a conspirator, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, well, you're facing reality, so sooner or later you're going to wake up and say, wait a minute, this ain't a conspiracy, this isn't people saying, oh, you're a nutcase or whatever. It really happened, it's happening now, it's going to happen in the future, and there ain't a thing you can do to stop it. Maybe you don't want to stop it, maybe you're thinking, who cares? Who cares what happens? Some people do care. Unfortunately, there's just not enough of us who can actually do anything. I call those people patriots because they want freedom. They want the United States back as what it used to be before Biden got in there and changed everything, how he manipulated it. And I'm telling you, if you don't see communism and socialism when they sit there on the public's internet services and they tell the people, you can't talk about that because we aren't going to let you talk about that, and that's like, that is total violation of our First Amendment protection. We are supposed to have the right of free speech. Does a communist let you say anything you want? Oh, no. No, those days are gone. That's what Biden would tell you in a heartbeat. You can't say that anymore. You can't talk that way anymore, and you certainly can't think that way anymore. That's communism, folks. That's stupidity beyond doubt. But that's what they want. That's what socialists are all about. That's why Biden says you got to buy an electric car. We got to get away from any kind of an electrical grid except green energy. Come on, man. Did you see what happened during that winter frost, that winter storm that came through Houston? It totally shut down their entire power grid. And then they said, oh, it wasn't reinforced for the winter. That's why the green energy system failed the way it did. It was like, it doesn't work in cold weather, you moron. That's why those other systems were in place. That's why we need systems that use fossil fuel like oil, coal, gas, all kinds of other things that we know we can depend on because they've existed for so long. And then these pervert globalists say, no, we don't need those things anymore. We can't use those anymore. You are a liberal, you are a progressive, you are a communist. You wanted these things, you got it, so please. You know what? The whole system of government of this country is going to fall right in your lap. It's going to fall down into the toilet. And all you're going to say is, well, it's the conservatives' fault. They didn't do nothing to stop it. They didn't try to stop it. And it's like, no, because you outweighed our voice and you destroyed it on your own. So take the full responsibility for yourselves. You did it. You have to lie in your own bed. You got to fix the mess you created if you want to. If you don't, it doesn't matter because it's beyond hope. There's no chance of changing what you've already done. That's it. The United States as a nation is no longer in existence. It's now called the North American Union. Barack Obama said that in 2012. He said, that's here. That's done. It's already been established. So now we have only one way to live, and that's the way the communists and the socialists tell us to live. We don't have a right anymore to own anything. We don't have a right to exist except the way they expect us to live, the way they would expect of us to think. You know, like a trained dog, you just perform an act, you perform a trick because they tell you to. That's the joke called voting in this country. You haven't got a voice to say nothing except for them to use it and change and use it to whatever purposes they want it to be. You don't want to believe what happened? Fine. It happened, you saw it, and you still denied it. So now you don't have anything. End of story. That's it. So thanks for watching. I hope what scenes I was able to show you about NES, you were happy with it, but it's just getting more and more maniacally stupid because inflation's out of control. Gas prices are out of control thanks to Joe Biden, thanks to the communists like George Soros, Barack Obama, he's the head guy. Hillary Clinton's next. Then you got Kamala Harris, then Nancy Pelosi, Charlie Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, Maxine Waters. The list just keeps going all the way down. Nader, all of them. Mitt Romney. All these people colluded with each other to do what they did. And they kept saying that bull crap the whole time when President Trump was first elected. Oh, he had collusion with Russia. He did this, he did that. You don't hear them say that about the Democrats, the socialists, because they're in control of everything we can hear, everything we can see. They're behind it. They're controlling the media.
rated PG-13.